Continuing on with resolution. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to change your image if you have a large image and you want to set it up to be for for the web, such as you want to be able to put it on a discussion board post and to make it a reasonable size so it's easy for people to see it, or you want to be able to put it onto a website. What are those steps? Incidentally, in the last video I talked about resampling a lot, which is something we see here in the image size window. And resampling, just the nature of the word, the definition means for Photoshop to add or take away pixels. In the previous examples, I mostly resampled by changing my resolution, increasing the resolution. And I did that so that I didn't have that inverse relationship between my width and my height. I wasn't just shifting around my 12 million or however many million pixels. I was having Photoshop add pixels per inch for me. But just to be clear, you can also resample directly through the width and the height, and you're going to have the same negative effects. So if I choose to make my image a little bit larger, I already had it at a resolution of 250, and I needed it to be, let's say, 12 inches by 8 inches in this particular one. I could keep my resolution here and allow Photoshop, I would click resample on and allow Photoshop to add the pixels to my width and my height to it. Now, if you had to make a choice between printing out an image at low resolution or printing out an image that has been resampled by Photoshop, so if you're in a situation where you have to make it larger, which incidentally should not be the situation for this class, your images for this class need to be at their correct size. You shouldn't make them larger by resampling or by printing them out at a lower resolution. That's not going to count. So, but if you're in another kind of situation beyond this class, where you absolutely have to get them a little bit larger and you had to choose, the answer is always going to be to resample. That's always going to be better than printing out at a resolution that's way too low. So printing out at a resolution of 72, for example, is never going to look good. It's really going to depend on the kind of image. If you have an image that has a lot of detail, it's going to be hard to resample and to lower the resolution. Remember, I talked about that you can tweak the resolution a little bit. You can go down a little bit. If you have an image that's kind of a distant view, maybe some mountains, a landscape, and there's already a little bit of movement in your image, you're going to be able to have more flexibility and to get away with resampling and perhaps also tweaking that resolution. So the tricks to be able to get your image a little bit larger, you can reduce the resolution a little bit, maybe go down to 220, 230, and then if it's still not large enough, then turn resample on and you can add those numbers back through the width and the height. But remember, do that in small steps. So now here we are in a situation where I have an image that's set up for print with a resolution of 250, but that's going to be way too large for the web. And I want to set this to have the correct resolution for the web, which is 72. So that's what I'm going to do first thing. And notice I have resample unchecked, and I'll show you in a second why. I'm going to change it to 72 and now change my units to pixels, which actually I can't do until I hit resample. So I've changed it now to 72 and now I can hit it to resample. And you can see my width is 1552 by 2592, which is very, very large for the web. So my general rule for web images is for a large image, keep whichever dimension is the larger dimension on your image to about 800. 800 and smaller for a large image. Because most screens are around 1200 pixels up to 1900 pixels, something like that. And people are going to have a lot of other things open on their screen as well. So 800 pixels is pretty large, and it might even be too large. So for my laptop, for example, 800 is an image I'm probably going to have to scroll for. Your goal is to make an image where no one has to scroll. So I'm now going to reduce my larger dimension, which is my height, to 800. And since I have my proportions locked, they're constrained here, as you have by default, it also reduced my width. And now I click OK, and that would be fine. But I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hit the Alt key to turn my cancel into a reset. And this time, I'm going to start it right out from the beginning with resample checked. And I'm going to change 2 pixels. And I'm going to reduce this down to 72. Now notice my height is at 746, and before my height was a lot larger and I was able to reduce it down to 800. So that's why I did the little trick of, I'm going to redo this again. First, with resample unchecked, I change my resolution to the target resolution of 72. Do that first. Then hit the resample option, change your units to pixels, and now you have all your pixels there, and now you can drop it down to 800 or a little bit smaller if you want. So those are just simply the steps. If I use resample right from the beginning, it drops down my size larger than I need it to be, and I might not be able to get it up to 800. So now I'm going to click OK. And it seems very small, but I'm still only viewing it at 16%. That's why. So I have my zoom tool here, the bottom tool, the toolbar, and I could just use that and click into it until it says 100%. So that's the size that someone would see it if I attached it onto a discussion board or I put it onto a website. When I'm viewing it here at 100% is its true size. Now let's talk about saving it. So if it's going on the web, I want to save a photograph as a JPEG. An illustration, a drawing, I would save in a different file format. In this video, I'm just going to talk about photographs. The simplest way to do that, I could do File, Save As, and choose JPEG from the drop-down. You might have it automatically on Photoshop, so if so, you want to choose JPEG and just the top one from the drop-down. And you're going to save it as a name, browse, put it wherever you would remember, and save it. I'm going to cancel that. The other option, if you want to get a little bit more sophisticated, is to go to File, Save for Web. And I like this option because it gives you a preview. Actually, I didn't finish. I'm sorry. I did not finish with my other one. To go back up and do the File, Save As, save it as a JPEG, and I'm just going to change the name so I don't override my last JPEG. And I'm going to get the JPEG options here. So I have options for a quality setting, low, medium, high, maximum. And that's great, but I don't get a preview. I don't really know what any of these settings look like. So I'll just tell you as a guideline, if it's going to be a large image, high is probably fine. If it's a very small image, such as a thumbnail, maybe 50 pixels by 50, probably low. But this is why I'm going to show you the other way to be able to save images for the web so you can get a preview. Here I don't have a preview. So if you're doing Files, Save As, just choose JPEG and choose High, and you're going to leave it at the baseline standard and click OK. Right now, I'm going to show you the other one again, File, Save for Web. And this is the option I like a lot because I can see my preview, and then I can see it compared to my original. Up here at the top, you have some tabs where I can see just my original, just the optimized, the one that I'm saving in a web format such as JPEG, or the 2-up. And that allows me to have a comparison of the side-by-side. So to do the photograph, I need to go over to here where I have my file format and choose JPEG. And now when I choose these different quality settings, such as high, I can compare this one to my original. So I'm going to switch it to low, where you can see really the difference, how low looks a lot more pixelated compared to my original. So when you optimize an image for the web and you save it in a format like JPEG, it uses an algorithm that's set up specifically for photographs. And in that algorithm, if you have a low quality setting, it's going to throw away a decent amount of digital information. And that's why your picture is going to look more pixelated. But it's worthwhile to get this preview because for each increase in your quality setting, you're also increasing your file size. Notice at low, if I look down here, I can see my file size. It's only at 19K, which is very small. My original, incidentally, was a little bit over 1 megabyte. If I move it up to very high, it's now at 154K, which is actually getting to be a little bit larger and kind of large for the web. If I go to high, where I don't see any difference in my quality between high and very high, I'm at 80K, which is perfect for the web. My general guideline is if your large images for the web should be under 100K. So you can feel free really to use either one of those settings. Just save as and choose JPEG, and for your large images choose the high quality. If you want to get a little more sophisticated, choose the option for File, Save for Web. Go up to the file formats, choose JPEG, choose 2UP. You can also choose the 4UP if you want, but it gets a little bit crowded. Choose the 2UP, and then go through the different quality settings, paying attention, noticing the difference between the optimized one and your original one. And when you're all done, you're just going to go through the normal save process where you're going to find somewhere to save it that you remember, save it with the appropriate name, and then hit the save button. Okay, so that pretty much covers what I wanted to for this video. I'm assuming that some of your images might come in with a higher resolution, so you need to know how to save them. But if you have an image that just has a resolution of 72 and you want to check it out or save it, check to see if it's the correct size for the web, or save it. I already have it at 72, 500 by 300 is absolutely fine, so I would just go directly for the Save for Web option. Okay, that gives you a pretty good amount of information for getting your images ready for saving them for the web.